everybody. Good morning. And welcome to our Cavell Summit, our European Cavell Summit. I was talking to Dom about, I don't know how many events we've done now, something like 40. And some of you in the room have been to most of them. So thank you for your attendance and joining us. I'm Matt Townend. I'm Managing Director and Founder of Cavell. Firstly, I'd like to really thank you all for coming, and also thanks to our sponsors, our gold sponsors who you can see, and our broader set of supporting sponsors who really help us put these events on and help us bring the community together. We really appreciate your support. We couldn't do it without you. So big thank you to all of our sponsors for your ongoing support. I am the person who tells you where you can go. It's pretty easy here. It's one long room. So if you're lost at any point, you're probably at the wrong end of the room. So down towards that end you'll find the sponsors, the exhibition hall, and all the food, etc. If if we have a fire, which we're not expecting a fire drill, the big boxes where it says registration, and the other side is where we head out quite fast. So we're not expecting a fire drill, so if something does happen, then we should evacuate the building. In terms of, we've got a packed agenda today, so in terms of the agenda, the best thing to do is look at your app. Some of the times on the agenda have changed slightly, just tweaks here and there, so do look at your Just Attend app for the finalised timings, but also I'm pleased to say that we've got both AI recaps, which were really well appreciated last time we did them, and also Smash are kindly providing recordings. So if you miss that nugget that I've said, you can read it, you can watch it again, you know, you've got multiple ways of consuming it. So that will be happening. So in the morning, we're pretty much in this room, and then in the afternoon, you get some choices. So in the afternoon, there's some different things going on you'll be able to attend. We've got some round tables, so Women in Telecoms round table, and also an Alianza round table who will be talking about their intelligent communications fabric. So they're smaller groups, you can join also. So a packed agenda. I would advise you to, if you haven't used it before, to use Slido. So we'll be asking some interesting questions throughout the day, where we'll be getting feedback from the audience, and I guess you guys will be interested also in what the feedback the industry is giving. So do have a look at Slido. And I have the first question. So those who are prepared, who've just looked at Slido, just taken a picture of the code. The first question I'm going to ask is, what are you most excited about hearing today? So let's see if we can practice and put it in. And what I'm hopeful is that what you put up is actually what we're talking about. If not, we have a bit of a challenge. But be interested to hear what people are most interested to hear about. So, where's Daniel? Have you started the Slido? No. I put it back up, yes, for those who didn't get it. Now all the cameras are rising. It's like, I feel like power, the cameras rise. So, okay. Right, now I'll go back to the question. Ooh, what's going on here? My clicker has stopped, guys, at the back. I'm getting the 2-minute signal. Talk amongst myself. So, you want to move the slides on if the clicker's not working, guys?
Matt, what is the code of the Slido?
Well, I can't move my...
Cavell. The code is Cavell, #Cavell.
#Cavell, thank you. And well, this might be one of those great opportunities to give a presentation without any slides. This first happened when I worked at Pipex. Everybody remember Pipex Dial? Yeah? So when I was at Pipex, I was about 24 years old, and I got asked to go, here we are. I got asked to go and speak at the IOD to explain what the internet was to the Institute of Directors. And I turned up and I asked them before I got there, have you got a phone line so I can do a live demo? Yes, we have. Have you got a projector so I can present? Yes, I have. Have you got a backup thing for ice? Do you remember those things where you had to put... Yes, we have. And I turned up at the IOD to find I was in the middle of a ballroom with none of that. So I had to sit and explain to an audience that doesn't look very different to this about what the internet was. And nobody had ever seen the internet. So you can imagine that as a challenge. How would you, through the art of mime, how did you explain what the internet was? So I think I had a lot of it's probably why the UK economy didn't do so well, because there was a lot of directors who walked out there didn't know what the internet was. But here we are. This is what we're going to be, what people are looking at to hear about. And we are going to talk about AI, which is no surprise, I guess. And somebody's making an announcement, so we shall hear about that as well. So, yeah, so this is great. So let's, during the day, now we've got it working, let's partake in some of the surveys as we go through. So that's what you're looking to hear about. I'm lucky to say most of those things we're going to cover. So that would be good. Somebody normally puts sausage. Nobody's put sausage yet, which is disappointing. Just a few rules. If you can keep your phones on silent, usual sort of stuff, just so that we respect our fellow conference goers. One other thing which I think is really great is here you'll see a photographer walking around, or a couple of photographers. Every photo they take, if you're in it, you'll get it. So what they do is, with this app, you take a selfie and it knows when you've been in any picture. So it will give you all the pictures you appear in. It was a really good thing actually we've done we've seen it done in the CCA, in the association I'm on the board of. So have a go at this, you'll see it around the place. But if you log on to this, literally if a cameraman catches you, you'll see all the photos that your face appeared in, which is really, really good. So it's a really nice feature, and if you want to then post them or do whatever you want, send them to your mother to show you're working or whatever you like to do with photos, you can do it. So yeah, really, really good. Have a look at that. Also, just on the housekeeping, if you need any help, you could hear me shouting at Delina at the back, who's our events manager. She can help you. Daniel's walking around. Our sales team are here. Anybody, if you need any help, just talk to them. So I've done all of the logistics and where we are. I'm now going to kick off with kind of my view of the world, which is kind of traditional at these events, which is really all around what's happening with disruption. So I think as an industry, and I have been in this industry 30 years, we have got used to things happening, earthquakes happening, things really changing in the market. So some of us have lived through some of these huge changes in the communications market, the rise of the internet. You know, those who are old enough, there's a few of us in the room who can remember monopoly telecoms moving to competition. You saw voice go to IP. We've seen platforms emerge. We've seen the move to cloud. And each of those changes have affected some players in the market quite heavily in terms of their control of the customer and margin. But they've been episodic. So they've happened, and then we've kind of brushed ourselves off, cleaned up, and gone again. But I think now the market is different. Disruption is happening all the time, and large disruption. So it's not episodic anymore. It's not happening, we can then kind of react to it, take a long time to think about it, and then go again. It's constant. So if you think in the last year or two, what's been going on, and these are just some of those things, but talking to a couple of people in the room, around just the impact that AI is having on their roadmaps and how quickly things can be developed now and how it's affecting innovation is massively changing and constant. The security requirement we're seeing, security requirement changing mid-contract for people. I mean, people having new security requirements on you in the middle of your contracts. And buyers expecting enterprise-grade services, even the SMBs. So we've got this change happening all the time. So our challenge as an industry is, during all of that change, to try and retain the customers we've got, to try and develop market differentiation in a kind of a new world. So how do I differentiate now? It's not in probably the ways that I traditionally differentiated. So how can I differentiate my services now? And during all of that, how do I control margins? So it's really, how am I building a new way of operating in this really sort of world of instability? And it doesn't come from outrunning the shift, it comes from moving with it, but being very agile. So we think this is the kind of the new challenge. I, as amongst many colleagues in the room, have been through some of those big changes, but they were fairly episodic. They happened, we reacted, it took time, we did well, and then something else happened. It's happening all at once. So how do we deal with that is the big challenge. And when we think about customers' requirements, some of you will have saw us talking about this last year, and it's become even more relevant, I think, is we are thinking now more and more about the kind of solutions customers want. And they're not isolated to systems, so they're looking for intelligent solutions that pull on all the systems they use, that integrate with other services to really create value. And at the bottom of that, data is massively important. So when you're thinking about how you drive differentiation, the customers are looking for improving customer experience, and we'll talk a lot about that during the day. They're thinking a lot about how can I improve my internal productivity, particularly with AI, and they're thinking very much about how they integrate solutions. And of course, they're thinking about sovereignty, security by design now. So they're thinking about how can I secure these solutions. But we're also being hit by some customers thinking about cost. So it does differ, and in this audience today, we've had 460 people register, and I think it was something like 20 different countries are represented. And there are differences, but in terms of what people are looking for, but there's some common themes. So improving security and compliance coming up high on all of the markets, AI coming up high in all the markets, and then some differences. So people in different markets are looking for slightly different things. So the improving customer experience is a particularly relevant theme in all markets, particularly in the small business we see across all markets. And obviously in the small business as well, we see reducing costs. So we have these drivers from the customer, but traditionally there has been these barriers, these walls between these applications and capabilities. And those are definitely breaking down. So let's talk about some of them and how they're breaking down. So obviously, the whole CX world is blurring. So we're coming to a world now where we see much more of an informal contact center arising, the CX UCaaS piece coming together. We see huge growth in that opportunity across Europe. And we're seeing those UCaaS and CCaaS barriers breaking down and those services coming together. But what's interesting is the channel across the markets we look at are still not necessarily going on that journey as well. So we still see, depending on market, only 20% selling CCaaS and even less selling UCaaS and CCaaS together. So we've got a channel that haven't maybe gone with us. So we see these new requirement for intelligent workplace solutions. We see the requirement for integration coming through very heavily from customers. in some markets now, we were spending quite a lot of time in Australia in the last month. In Australia now, the biggest reason that people choose a new supplier is their integration capability. It's not about product, it's not about price anymore, it's about their ability to integrate. Number one in Australia in terms of what enterprises say their biggest requirement is. So being able to integrate this world. Now in the UK, it's still about number 3 behind price and product, but it's coming quickly. So more and more people are looking for you to integrate those solutions, looking for your partners to integrate those solutions. So it's interesting that when we look kind of globally at the channel doesn't seem to have quite moved there. So I think that's a challenge for us in the industry about how do we enable that change, but it is interesting. When we talk about integration as well, I think it's really fascinating that a number of us in the room have rushed towards collaboration, marketplaces and integration, rushed to integrate with Microsoft, Zoom, Cisco, etc. There's been a lot of effort put in by service providers and carriers to integrate with those systems, and a lot of time and money and investment gone into that, for good reason. But maybe we've forgotten some of the other anchor platforms. Maybe we haven't spent as much time thinking about the broader opportunity. So just picked on a few other anchor systems that people are using. HubSpot is fascinating because HubSpot actually tells you how many integrations that individual platform providers have provided. So Aircall have done 15,000 individual customers, not users, integrations into HubSpot. Double the nearest competitor. So, and these aren't, for once, you can't shoot me down for the numbers, but you know, the other people you see on that case, Zoom number 2, you know, you'll see them appear in most of the ecosystems. So some of the platform providers, traditional software guys, have thought very hard about how you drive integrations and how you drive working with these new ecosystems. When you look at things like Clio, if you went on the tube today, actually, you'll have seen an advert, and you may have thought, who are they? They are the guys who do all the legal practice management software, really big in legal practice management software. Again, guess what? You're seeing Zoom, Ring, and Go2 integrated and on the platform there. So if I'm a Clio user and I go to my marketplace to see, maybe just to see who I can buy comms from, they appear. Bullhorn, one we've talked about for years around HR. So again, you'll see the platform players here. What you fascinatingly, interestingly don't see is any of the major carriers appear in any of these ecosystems. So as we move to this new world of intelligent workplace solutions, we're not seeing traditional carriers and people appear in these ecosystems, which is kind of a fascinating opportunity or an interesting observation. So yeah, these are some of the anchor platforms that we're seeing. Of course, with the earthquake theme, the world moved a little bit last week, I guess, depending on how interested you are. So 2 things happened which were really important out at Enterprise Connect. Salesforce announced the end to CTI support in 2 years. So I won't ask people to put up their hands because it may be a bit embarrassing, but I think if I ask how many people are using Salesforce CTI as a way of integrating into Salesforce, I would think I would probably get 80% of the room putting their hands up. That is ending in 2 years. So Salesforce have announced you can't integrate with them anymore in that way. So you can think about why they might have done that. They will tell you one thing, I might tell you another privately. And the other thing I think which was interesting, we talk about the merging of kind of CRM. We've already I guess we already all accept the UC and CC have come together. We kind of probably all accept that. And we probably accept productivity and collaboration have come together to some degree. But we probably didn't expect Salesforce to launch their own contact center product, last week in the US and Canada. Maybe demonstrates again that whole world coming together. So the earth moved a little bit for me in Enterprise Connect, and it was because of this, that's happening. But no tier ones appearing in these ecosystems is fascinating and interesting. And maybe as the world's moving on, you have to think about how you're going to participate more actively. So the other exciting thing you all asked us to talk about was AI. Well, the good news is 45% of enterprise we asked said the people we'll go to are the people who provide us comms today. They're the people we'll go to for AI. So you've got to be ready to answer their questions. And obviously, the question is, can you react? And I don't actually think it's just about reacting. It's about being able to take them on a journey with you, be thought leaders, and help them understand the opportunities. But I would say don't focus on AI. And you'll go, well, 10,000 of it, not 10,000, if only there was 10,000 people in this room. A few hundred people just said, let's focus on AI. And we say you've got to focus on those outcomes. The question we're also being asked a lot by carriers, by application vendors is, where is the value really being created in AI? Where can we create value? And the question really is it being created at an application layer? So are you working with your application vendors and the application vendors are creating a lot of value through what they're doing in their layer? Are you thinking about building an orchestration layer above that, where you orchestrate services into your customers, maybe with your application vendors, sometimes independently? Or is it, if you own network and wholesale voice and data access, is it going to be at that area? And this is the big debate. And the final area that we often overlook is the data layer, where we bring all those layers of data together and create value there. So this is kind of the debate we're having with lots of service providers and lots of people around the world about where really can we create value. The other big question, I think, which is really valuable to most people in the room, is the key challenge is often go to market here. It's actually not the technology. So you have the pleasure of having lots of customers who are coming to you or likely to come to you and ask you about these services. So you're in a better position than most of the market. So there is a lot of differentiation to be had by having a route to market. We studied, I think it was 300 different voice agent businesses, and 80% of them go direct because they're trying to get their businesses off the line, and most of them as well, about 80%, also go vertical. So they're being very focused, and because they don't have the benefit of having the go-to-market strength that you guys have and the customers that you have. So you've got a huge opportunity. They're coming to you. But what are some of the use cases we're seeing being successful? So the great sort of benefit now of a bit for many is being an infrastructure provider was a challenge, right? You're being eroded by the OTTs, etc. The great promise is edge compute for some of the LLMs and STSs is the great potential opportunity for some of the carriers. We're already seeing people like Tata and others start to bring those sorts of capabilities to market. So one of the challenges obviously we have with AI is just the pure power and latency and things that we need to provide. So actually having that infrastructure is quite valuable. And then you'll see a number of, I'm not going to go through all of them, but one of the questions is, a few of these can appear in all areas. So transcription, fraud control can appear in all these areas. And when I talk to vendors and service providers, they often talk about the use case, same use case, but in different in these different parts of the network or different parts of the ecosystem. So it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out. But yeah, this is the discussion we're having with a lot of service providers. Where can we create value? Where does it sit within that piece? The other piece is, let's not dismiss how AI has widened the security threat. I talked to a very, very intelligent man out at Enterprise Connect recently who was expressing to me, Matt, you're not really thinking enough about how broad now the attack frame has become with AI, how broad that is to us as a service provider and to our customers. It's just, it's just grown massively. And, there are opportunities to build services here to help our customers. So quite often we're too focused on, providing our core services, not thinking about this opportunity. So we're seeing a huge threat from security, but what are these services are you bringing to market to address those? The other question, which we're going to talk more about during the day, is really about sovereignty. But we think it's kind of interesting because there's an inherent conflict between some of what's happening internationally and some of what's happening in Europe. There's a kind of a natural conflict in some of these areas. I guess conflict's a bit of a theme at the moment in the world. But there is some natural conflict between some of the things that are happening internationally and some of the things that are happening from a European regulatory point of view. But these are also identifying opportunities in EMEA for providers and people who have local capabilities. So it's kind of a balancing act right now between data sovereignty, software sovereignty, and what we're seeing from procurement. But there is opportunity within this that is present. Now, the one thing I couldn't not talk about was because at our event in Enable, I went round probably the 4 or 5 biggest MSPs in the UK who are at our event, and they all said, Matt, what you're talking about is really interesting, but I'm going to lose 20% of my voice revenues next year if I manage to migrate my customers. If I don't manage to migrate them, it might be worse. Because this opportunity, this was OpenReach's press release in January, where they announced there were 2.8 million lines, 500,000 businesses still on PSTN, and to encourage, I think it's encouragement, is that encouragement? They are going to ratchet up prices, understandably, I guess, to encourage people to finally bite the bullet. So this is still the challenge, I guess, that a lot of you in the room are dealing with realistically about how do I migrate these customers. But it's also an opportunity for some in the room as well. But this hasn't been, we've been talking about it probably for 15 years and it's still not solved. So if we think about who do I think is going to win, which businesses are going to do really well in the coming years, I think it's all around this. And some will have heard me talk about this before. I just think the people who understand the context of their customers, who really understand the workflows of their customers, understand the use cases of their customers, are the people who are going to succeed. Because how are you going to sell AI, CX, into customers where you don't understand this? So really understanding the context of your customers is where I think there's going to be value. We've got some sessions later with investors, so come along to those and ask them what they're looking at, and I think you'll hear some of these themes coming through. But it's not all bad news. So ecosystems are expanding. So around us, the ecosystem's expanding, and some providers are already taking advantage of that. Some platforms are taking advantage of that. That's a bigger opportunity now. We're not in our stovepipes. We're not just selling business comms in isolation. So understanding where you sit and working in those ecosystems is a big opportunity. The good news is customers are going to come to you. A lot of them are going to come to you for these new AI productivity services. So you're in a great position to do that. And AI itself can drive both new margin for you and new service revenue, but also affect your own COGS and bring down some of your costs. So it's a positive thing. And I always think that when there's regulatory shift, there's opportunity. So both with the sovereignty piece that's going on, but also with the in the UK specifically, the PSTN shut off. There's opportunity to be had there. So I think there's quite a lot of opportunity around this. But we are in this time of constant change, so we have to move quickly. We have to think about what we're doing. So what I think you will likely do. Some of the playbook, I think a lot of people are, we've just done a load of interviewing of people around the world and service providers, and a lot of people are looking at how they own this orchestration layer and what that means. So I think that's pretty important. We're seeing a lot of specialized action, people trying to build businesses where they have targeted specific industry solutions where they understand the workflows. We're seeing quite a lot around scale and operational efficiency, where people are looking to scale the businesses. And because if you are taking a broad-based play, you're going to have to do that at scale to compete and keep up with the R&D, etc. So you're going to have to work with platforms who are scaled. And providers are looking at addressing a wider portfolio of capabilities. To finish, a couple of news flashes. So today we announced our expansion of our channel insights into Germany. So if you're interested in the German market, we're now tracking, I think it's 4,000 German resellers. We have announced our Impact series, which you'll hear more about later, which if you're in a product role and you want to get up to speed quickly on security or generational AI or messaging, we produced a series which is perfect for you. We are doing our first CX Summit on the 16th of June, which will be exciting. And I have an announcement for somebody else, which is my friends, the company formerly known as AI4, I guess you would say. Subphonic is how I pronounce it. Today have announced the acquisition of Oak Innovation at the event. So congratulations to both those companies. And very excitingly, we've announced our date for our US event, which is going to be in Boston, and we're going to Harvard. I'm going to lecture at Harvard. My mother would be so proud. We've got the most amazing venue called Tree Houses in Harvard, and I am going to lecture US audience in Harvard. It's my dream come true. So, just before we close, I wanted to try one more. If Delina is there, you are there, ready to go. Perfect. I just wanted to ask you kind of how you're feeling about the market opportunity for your services. Just give me your honest feedback. I think it would be useful. We've had one person vote, more positive, which is great. Just see how you're feeling honestly about the market opportunity to close. Okay, we're a positive bunch. Well, that's a good start, that we're all in a positive mindset. So, I think there is a load of opportunity with this. I mean, of course, my business loves change, right? Because that's what I make money out of. But I think there is loads of interesting opportunity and intellectual opportunity coming. So really excited. I hope you enjoy the day.